We are awakening together. This is our weekly gathering we hold online. For more information, visit our website, awakening-together.org. We'd love to see you there.
Thank you, thank you. So happy to see everyone, really, everybody's beautiful faces. Happy Easter or Resurrection Day, some people say to everyone. I've missed you all. Lots going on for me, but calming down now, and just really good to see all of your faces. Um, and meeting with my family later, but so happy to be really meeting with this family now, and so great to see you all. And if you want to play our welcome song, we can all meet together in the meeting room. So now we'll begin with our purpose and values. We are an assembly of equals joined in common purpose, awakening to one true self within an appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols. We seek to discern one truth and to rest in its embrace. The statement of purpose that I've chose for today is core value 3. We accept one true self, which is one presence or being, non-dual, without beginning or end, and absolutely changeless. We live this value by practicing letting go of the belief in the individual self as who we are. And now we'll begin with our announcements. Thank you. So now I'm going to get started with the first song. I just want to introduce it. I don't know how many of you saw the Barbie movie. And someone may have even already used this song. It's really a beautiful song. I went to the movie just really initially for the nostalgia. I was a Barbie kid, Barbie, Barbie, Barbie. That's all I was really about when I was younger. And my girls, I was happy to bring to the movies with me. I dragged my husband, who surprisingly enjoyed it as much as we did. There really was something for everybody in the movie. It was funny, it was touching, it was kind of deep, and it just had like more layers than I expected, I should say. So the song's by Billie Eilish, and she like in her Oscar acceptance was just talking about how the writing the lyric changed her life. You kind of see her getting choked up, and I think everybody can really be in touch with the lyrics, the video, and what it says. Um, so in the movie, Barbie's kind of having this existential crisis. Um, Questioning, her very existence and her purpose, as many of us do. The name of the song is called "What Was I Made For?" Um, and you could play the song now. Um, Thank you. And so now we'll move into our prayer, taking a deep breath in and out. May the beauty, love, and wisdom that is us come through this sharing. May the source that animates us show us truly what purpose is and what desire is really for. May we be willing to embrace the grace that comes through the understanding of what we are in all its many forms. And may we recognize ourselves as all of it. Before we get started with our reading, I just wanted to send my love to Yolanda. I did not know Glenn long, but I was attracted to his light long before I met him. And I know his clarity, wisdom, and his humor is here with us today as we enjoy each other in this gathering. The reading that I've chosen is The Story of I by Helen Hamilton. She says in her intro, the story is not really about me. It is about you and all of us. This book is an autobiography of the self, if such a thing could exist. We are leaving out contemplation during this reading. Just the contemplations are at the end of each chapter, and we're just really focusing on the text. And Stacy Staul will be doing the reading. Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you, Reverend Beverly. Good morning, everyone. The story of I. At first, I was simply the unborn awareness self. I was everywhere present and yet nowhere in particular. I was all, and all was in me. There was no growth, no expansion or transcendence. There was only me. I could not perceive myself as I was everything and everywhere, and there was no reference point to be able to look back at myself from. I could not experience myself as I was the only thing in existence, and there was no time. I did not know I existed, and I did not know anything at all. I could not think. I was all. Then a human body appeared in me, and inside this body, I realized that I exist here. I realized that I am. With the coming of this body, I knew that I was, and I could think I am. I was existence itself, and that was all I knew. I knew I am. I thought to myself, here am I. I am here. There was perception of my existence. Then I saw this human body and I recognized that I am this body. I realized I am this body, and my attention saw this first thing. This body was the first object that had appeared, and I felt joy in identifying with this new thing in my awareness. Over time, I learned to value other things and to search for them. I began to value other thoughts, such as thoughts about myself, my body, my thoughts, and much more. I began to define myself and my world only by the things I could see. My belief that I am this body became very firmly established as I was fascinated learning how to move this body and what it could do. I could use it to experience my world. A collection of thoughts began to grow inside my head. These were thoughts that I thought so often that I began to call them my mind, as it felt safe to me. I began to know myself as the body, and all the things that I called mine became highly valued, such as my family, my mind, my likes and dislikes. When I learned to value things, I soon forgot about my no thing, awareness, self. And when this body died one day, I seemed to disappear. I forgot about my real self and that this body appeared in me. One day, I began to feel fear that I would die. I began to notice my body aging and beginning to fail. I saw other people aging and dying, and I began to fear the end of my existence. Over time, this became stronger and stronger, and over many bodies, this fear eventually became so strong that I could not even really enjoy this current body. A new thought came to me one day that said, I wonder if this is all there is to existence. I began to question life and existence and to ask if there was more to life than I knew. Over time, I became obsessed with this search and began to look everywhere I could for an answer. Reading books, meditating, all the time consumed by this inner drive to find answers, to find an end to this fear. Life could not simply be about being born, experiencing for a few years, and then dying, and it all being wiped out. I began to notice that other people did not feel this drive or seemed to have so much fear, or perhaps they were better at ignoring it than me. One day, a new thought came and it said, I must have come from somewhere. Even if I am only this body, then the succession of bodies and parents must have started somewhere. I must have an origin that was not a body. Suddenly, this thought made a lot of sense. I realized I could not only be this body. I began to see that I am inside this body, and I was wearing this body. It seemed obvious that I am the I inside this body. I felt a bit happier knowing that I was not only this body, although I noticed that I still needed this body to exist. I had no memories of anything before this body, and I began to feel the dread again. The ever-present threat of non-existence loomed again, so my search continued. Still, I felt I was making progress. I couldn't actually find myself when I looked for me, but I knew that I was associated with this body. Then I had a thought that perhaps it is the same I in all the human bodies. It made sense to me. Everyone else around me seemed to be experiencing birth, life, and death. And during that life, they always called themselves I, just like I did. It seemed suddenly obvious that this I was experiencing life through all the bodies, and it was calling itself a human being each time. It was the same I, having experiences, successes, failures, families, joy, suffering, and all of it. It was the same I being born, growing into adulthood, having its own children, and aging. It was all the same I, ultimately, that had to disappear back into the oblivion of death. This made me a little happier because I was in every human as every human, but still each human had to die eventually. One day it occurred to me that everything that existed was being born and dying. Even a cloud had a beginning and an ending. It seemed to make sense that everything that ever had an existence was coming and going. Perhaps then existence meant having a start, duration of lifespan, and an ending that was death. I thought about this a lot, and it seemed that not only human beings had an I in them, but so did the animals too. Birds, reptiles, and even inanimate objects all followed this pattern of existence. It occurred to me that even the universe itself was following this pattern. I realized that when I am is all of creation. I realized that what I am is all of creation. I am everything that exists and will exist and has existed in the past. What I am is the whole universe. Suddenly, I could see that I was everything that was manifest. I was everything that was a thing. For a while, I felt immense joy and a sense of everlasting existence. For even though this body was bound to die and I would have to stop experiencing through it, I was eternal after all. I was the first beginning and I will exist until the last ending. I am all of time. Life itself was what I am. I am everywhere that anything exists, and I experience life through and as each thing. Soon this joy began to fade, and the restlessness that I had before returned. My search seemed not to be finished. Questions began to arise, and I asked myself, if I am all that exists, and I am constantly coming and going, where then do I originate from? It seemed clear to me that everything must be coming out of something that was else or other to me. It seemed to me that there must be some source of existence, or nothing could arise and have existence at all. For a while, I was more confused than ever. My search deepened, and I saw that this body, this mind, and all bodies and minds, all creation came from a source that was not coming and going. I began to notice a silent space of awareness that was simply here. I could not classify it as existing or not existing because it had no ending or beginning. Perhaps this was the end of my search. Finally, I had found something that was permanent and not subject to change. It was unmanifest and pervaded all of existence. It was awareness, self, that is the source of all existence. I was overjoyed with happiness, but the question still remained of how this affected me. I became intensely curious about this awareness, self, and over time, I began to see that this awareness is what I am. It seemed obvious finally that I was the one looking at all existence. I could not see comings and goings if I was myself coming and going. Suddenly, existence itself seemed like a dream. I could not be that which was coming and going, and even if I was there, must be something more permanent that I am also. Over time, I became established in the realization that I was the unmanifest source of existence and that all existence was coming out of me. Soon an itch began to emerge. Something irritated me, and it seemed my understanding of myself was still not complete somehow. I began to question how there could be anything other than the unmanifest. Surely anything that arises from my unmanifest awareness self must also be me too. I pondered this deeply as the manifest and ever-changing world of existence seemed to be completely the opposite of me. It was coming and going, and I was infinitely always. It was growing and changing, and I had never changed. It was happening in time, and yet time happened in me. One day, a realization appeared in me that perhaps the manifest existence of forms was not real. Perhaps it was all only an appearance. Perhaps things being born was simply only a change of appearance from being invisible and unmanifest to being manifest. Perhaps nothing was actually born at all. Maybe nothing died either, but simply the appearance of it changed back to its original unmanifest state of being invisible and intangible. The more I thought about it, the more joy I felt. I realized that I am allness. I am inclusive of everything, including manifest and unmanifest. I am that place where such division does not abide. I am the place before thoughts in which thoughts appear and seem to divide myself. Peace at last seemed here. Finally, I could rest knowing myself to be the all. I knew myself to be everything, nothing, and not limited by those terms and by any definition. I am nowhere, everywhere, and beyond. I am inside this body, outside this body, supporting this body, and beyond both definitions. I am beyond all limitations. I was simply the awareness, self, playing as life, existence, and all that is. Yet I remain unchanged by anything. Then one day I realized that none of this actually happened. I realized this journey that I had been on was only a story. I realized I am only a dream I am having inside the real me, which has always been and will be, and I was happy. I marveled at what a vivid imagination I have.
Thank you so much, Stacy. That was beautiful. Thank you. Um, so all of this kind of came together on its own. um, for the song that I chose, I love this song for so many reasons. It felt like the beginning of like a questioning or an inquiry. Having seen the video, which I actually watched for like, I think the first time last week, I chose this song, but then I looked at the video and I'm like, oh my God, this is my homily. And it was just a perfect scenario how one can spend the initial chapters of one's life trying to define what it is, this thing that we are. And we settle sometimes for what makes us comfortable, establishing an artificial compass so that we feel we know what we are. Everything in its proper place, predictability, order, all the things that make the mind comfortable. And then as the video demonstrates, all hell breaks loose. And it reminds me of how I've grasped for the familiar and the order and the things that have made sense to my mind. And then I would find myself disoriented, angry, frustrated, or depressed, or even enraged as I try to put this thing I think I figured out, back together again. And it doesn't even matter how raggedy it was, as long as it bears some resemblance to the latest construct. Things fall apart, and one fails to question if it was even real. There is a sadness, yet hopefulness in the lyric. I don't know how to feel, but I want to try. This reminds me of how on my own journey, how I had lost my center and myself, and I couldn't find a me, but not in a good way. I mean, the authentic me. I was dismissing and filtering my direct experience through my conditioning and didn't even know it. The younger, bolder, and shameless me used to know how I felt, and I was never confused about what I wanted. I used to be obsessed with Barbie, and I really didn't play with anything else. I mean, I didn't need the car or the house or the trailer or the camper. They had all millions of toys. And I just loved using my imagination, just playing with Barbie. And once when I was young enough to still be excited about Christmas, but too old to believe in Santa, I wanted a Christie Barbie doll. And for those of you who don't know Barbie, she was the first Black Barbie doll. And I was probably about 8 or 9 years old. And they always came out with a new version of a Barbie who does this or that. And I wanted a particular Barbie that Christmas. And I was so psyched, you know. And we were kind of past the whole Santa thing. So, you know, gifts would slowly appear under the Christmas tree as Christmas approached. So it wasn't like this no presents, and all of a sudden the presents were there type thing. And now my mom, she had a tendency to miss the mark sometimes. I gave her the list, told her what Barbie I wanted. And, I knew that she had this tendency. And I'm not proud about what I'm about to say. But in my gut, I knew that Barbie that I wanted was not under the tree. So I knew which box under the tree was the gift. And I went and grabbed the gift box and I scratched the wrapping paper where the face would be to see if it was the right one. And lo and behold, wouldn't you know it, it was the wrong Barbie. I don't even know if it was Barbie, to be honest. And now my mother was the type of person that would completely allow me to be myself unapologetically. And I could say that my mom, we could be just authentic with her. And I came running to her in a panic. And I was like, Mom, you got the wrong Barbie. It's the wrong one, panicking. And, now mind you, I didn't want really anything else for Christmas. The rest on the list was just fluff. I just wanted the Barbie doll. And I was panicked and I could see that she was a little panicked. Because she knew, basically I wouldn't be getting anything I wanted for Christmas if I didn't get this doll. And so what did we do with 2 days left before Christmas? We scrambled and we raced to Kitty City. We swapped that I don't know what doll for the real thing. And I was happy on Christmas morning and it was all was well. Now, some might say that I was shameless, but I would do anything to regain some of that shamelessness back. Sometimes this shamelessness gets shamed out of children and they become little imposters, and then they become adult imposters, and desires get muted and swapped out for something else, something safe, predictable, and familiar. Those grandiose ideas that we had about who we would be as children get adultized. I was very clear when I was a child, and I would say, this is it, and this is not it. And that slowly turned into, well, it is what it is. Not from a place of acceptance, but from a place of resignation. And I realized that desire and purpose are tied. That which wants what it wants through this body mind is the self. The separate being may occasionally hijack the desire in the name of safety, fear, anger, security. But the spark of desire itself, I do believe, is pure, as it is the self. She sings, when did it end? All the enjoyment. I'm sad again. Don't tell my boyfriend. It's not what he's made for. So funny how in my life, my main belief is I can't get what I want, interestingly enough. And I have no idea how I got here. That child was so relentlessly clear. Now as an adult, easily accepts that joy is an elusive thing, a mirage, temporary. What did I do with that child with a giddy laugh every time she got what she wanted? That child slowly began to feel guilty when things went her way, undeserving even. And life seemed to gradually confirm what she believed. And she would say, see, I told you. And a new chapter began in a book that was not the original copy. It was a knockoff authored by the separate being. And in this book, other beings would seem to confirm the lie. They were part of this new storyline. You can't ask them because in this story, it's not what they're made for. This new story does not involve being supported, vulnerable, or feeling seen by others. In the what I was made for song, she says, I used to float. Now I just fall down. I used to know, but I'm not sure now what I was made for. She reminds me of the forgetting and the deterioration of the confidence and the unapologetic truth that we were once sure of. She sings, taking a drive, I was an ideal, looked so alive. Turns out I'm not real, just something you paid for. What was I made for? I found this line of this song to be so powerful. I'm taking a drive in this dream that I have paid for with my thoughts and beliefs. I hit a wall when I realized that none of this is real, and I've imbued this existence with so much aliveness and realness. But contrary to what I've thought, it actually turns out that happiness and joy is what I'm made for. I sometimes have thought that I have deluded myself, not with the original impulse or spark of my being, which comes from source, but with the illusion that was mistaken for the real thing. There's no need to abandon the original impulse, which is an easy conclusion to come to. I don't know how to feel, but I want to try. I want to know that that impulse is real. And I don't have to filter how it is showing up. It will find itself through me, as I am. It is me, and it is never wrong. The mistake is that I thought it must be wrong. I'm uncomfortable, so it must be wrong. I'm ashamed, or I feel rejected, or I feel unworthy, so it must be wrong about me. When our story falls apart, we don't know how to feel, though there is something that knows that the original impulse is real. In the end of the video, she grabs her doll case, which seems to imply that there is an attachment, yet a hope. The doll case represents for me an original intention or impulse, not the manifestation of the original impulse. There is something that is represented by the things we value, but not the thing itself. It would seem to be that underneath the hope is the absolute reality that we know is there. There is something in us that knows that what is true is true. And it is the rain and the wind and the storm that uncovers this absolute reality that we thirst to know. The joy of knowing existence beyond beginnings and endings can be exhilarating, but makes us question our purpose at times. And we are sad again, not realizing the power of questioning what is. There would seem to be an assumption that all is meaningless. It is possible, or is it possible that meaning is in the meaninglessness? Something from nothing, an intelligence that knows no thing, yet knows itself beyond what we could possibly imagine. Could this intelligence know itself as Beverly in a way that I as a separate being could not possibly fathom? I have been spoken into existence by this very consciousness. How could I not have a purpose? How could that spark be extinguished by illusion or confusion or karmic patterns? These things only seem to delay the inevitable. And yet, if I am time and time is me, can I really be delayed? Can there really be any distance from self if all is self? Can we relax and enjoy the ride of what am I? The itch or the irritation that the story of I talks about seems to indicate a discomfort that may be taken for granted. The itch is the beginning of the awakening journey to what we may have forgotten. Life would seem to show us the opposite of what we know to be true. Establishing the familiar and safe cannot be a substitute for what we know to be true. And as the world, as we know it, crumbles, we're faced with the magnificent task of uncovering the truth, letting the rain and the storms come so that we can see what is real and what is not. Perhaps the manifestations and shapes that we have constructed out of ourselves are begging to be uncovered so that we can know what is real. It is then that perhaps that which was never real may be seen for what it is. Nothing dying, just being revealed and seen in its truest state. Reflecting on chapter 9 of the story of I, this body that has come and will go can be a joy if I know what it is. The journey can be playful and we can be curious. Initially, it seems catastrophic that I'm not real. And I think that all my hopes and dreams must go with this realization. an apocalypse of sorts regarding all I hold dear. But it's quite the opposite. I cannot possibly fathom that there already exists a version of what I want that could eclipse the most grandiose imagining that I could conjure. And so I am not to abandon that original impulse, but to allow the original cut to stand on its own and lose all attachments to what mind has made. If I am before thought, then thought could not possibly create a version of me that is greater than the real thing. On my journey of the story of I, authenticity went by the wayside. I omitted myself, forgetting that I too am included in this oneness. There was the belief that everyone is included in the oneness but me. And then I saw the ways that life would seem to exclude me as I would exclude myself. The reflection was following my lead. Upon realizing that I was included in the oneness, I had to sit with all the uncomfortableness of not just accepting this, but being accountable to myself and my action. I could see how I was so apologetic and needing to justify having deep love and compassion for myself. Insane to watch, and yet this is what was happening. I could see that I seemed to be in this predicament where I stood my ground in this uncomfortable space, this space of just being. And then I realized that I've spent most of my life evading this space. It was literally painful to exist in this space that I had imagined did not want me. All a dream of my making. And yet it wasn't enough to understand this with my mind. Life brought circumstances that will repeatedly force me to acknowledge that source not only includes me, but is me. I realized that I do know how to feel. I was just letting mind get in the way of my authentic nature. Authenticity is the self. It is clean, unfiltered, and I breathe it. It doesn't need to be cleaned up and resold as a me. It is perfect as it is, and it moves authentically towards itself. The compass is inherent in my very being. It doesn't need to be cultivated. I, as my authentic self, am inevitably drawn to self like a wave inevitably recedes into the ocean, as everything is self. I cannot get it wrong. I'm not here of my own doing. Not even the tortuous path is my own doing. I am on a most perfect and magnificent path, a thought in the mind of God. I have nothing to fear and nothing to strive for. I came here with everything I need included in the packaging. This concludes my homily. Thank you. I want to share a song with you. It's called Giant by Calvin Harris. And I think the other person who's part of the song is Rag and Bone, I think. And the song embraces the oneness. As we thirst to know what is real, the oneness sees itself as us, through us, looking at itself through each one, and we revel in the awe at what each one of us actually is. Giant by Calvin Harris. Thanks, Rhoda. Thank you, everyone, on this Resurrection Sunday. Awakening Together benefits from all of our contributions, allowing us to continue to receive love and heal and be in beautiful spaces like this. So Rhoda, if you could put the link in the box for this. Thank you. And thank you everyone for just being in the space, holding the space. I love you. And if anyone would like to share at this time. John? Yeah.
Yeah, that was I didn't know I was Barbie. I just didn't. Uh, that was such a wonderful uh, journey through the process that um, it felt like you were describing my life or what I called my life. And the reading was, it was just amazing. This this process of awakening or remembering or unveiling, whatever you might call it. It feels so random when you're in the middle of it. And maybe the actual unfolding, I tend to think, is uh, random, but only in the sense of it's not the same for each one of us, but the pattern is there. We may not start at that point and end up at this point, but all those elements seem to be present. And hearing what appears to be somebody else talk about it is a true joy. I'm not one for going back and listening to necessarily homilies again, but for me, in my mind, this is one I'd like to hear again because, damn it, I want to get this right. I say tongue in cheek. But I thank you for that. And I thank all of us for that. This is quite a rolling back of the stone and walking out into what is. So thank you.
Thank you, John. So beautiful. Would anyone else like to share? I can't really see if, oh, Rhoda.
Thanks, Beverly. I came in this morning with a very clear, isn't that weird? Those are the words that come out, a clear sense of confusion. Over the weekend, I had been looking at misperceptions, and one of the big misconceptions was this is my body, or misperceptions, I should say, misperceptions, this is my body. And what came in for me was this is God's body, but something felt off about that. Something felt like a denial in that. And as I heard you, first as I heard the reading, and then as I heard you speak about it, I could feel what, at least in this moment, feels like the truth. It feels true that this is the experience of God as Rhoda. And that's the spark that gets denied. I wrote in the chat a couple of things I heard you say. And as always, I will be contemplating some of these words and reading Helen's story because I can feel the pull, I can feel the call, I feel how strong there is to actually know this. And I have not heard this or seen this before quite in this way. So this feels very raw and very new. So I appreciate the opportunity to share it. Thank you for always showing up the way you do, Beverly. Always.
Thank you. Thank you. Something just resonated with me, what you just said, which is the spark that gets denied. which is really, what this is all about. It's like, um, for me, it was, when did I start to deny that spark and sort of see it as something else or distort it with my mind? So yeah, I love that. Thank you. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to share?
Joanne Schneider has her hand up.
I loved it. Hey, Beth. I have not seen the Barbie movie, but I'm going to now. And that song is so great. And the way you tied your whole message in with, the Barbie, I loved it. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. When I went to see it, it was really unexpected. I just expected to laugh and to be like, I remember that, I remember that. And then it just went someplace else. And I was like, whoa, you know. So it was really, really a pleasant surprise, actually, seeing it. Yeah, I enjoyed it very much. And I'll just pause a little longer, and then if there's no one else, I'll move to the next song. Let's see. Mary?
Thank you, Beverly. Thank you, everyone. I just want to restate for myself that I came here with everything I need. I love that last line. I loved your whole homily and the song. But that was a great reminder this morning. I spent yesterday spinning and being aware that I was spinning. I had a funeral to participate or attend yesterday. The friend I used to work with, her 18-year-old autistic son died in their house fire. And the funeral was yesterday. And it was in an African-American church. So you can imagine how long and intense and emotional the service was. It was wonderful. But my brother called me right before. This is the one that needs stuff all the time. And he said, if you're going to see our sister, Terry, who's in the hospital today, I'd like to go along. And by the way, I need to stop at the pharmacy and pick up medicine because they're going to return it because it's been so many days that it's been sitting there. Now, he's had a niece turned on his phone for him last week. He's had all week to make this call to say, I need help getting this. He waits to the last day. And I told him, I said, I'm getting ready to go to participate in this funeral. I don't know if I'll go see Terry or not. And then he went to look for something and we got disconnected and he never called back. So I was reminded all day of my Al-Anon days and codependency days and letting people have their own process and not going in to rescue. And then I had a conversation with one brother who he called also. And he said, he calls me and it's the last minute and I've already got plans. If he would have called yesterday, even, I could have rearranged some stuff. And he was spinning. And then another sister was spinning. And it was like, I have everything I need, but also he has everything he needs. And I need to let him find everything he needs on his own instead of all of us going around. I mean, he's not an alcoholic or an addict, but he's got that same behavior. I need, and you're going to come fix it, and he keeps calling until he finds somebody that comes and fixes it. So that was a great reminder for me that I have everything I need. And also that each one of us, we all have everything we need. And I need to let people find I need to let people understand that lesson, that they have what they need. So thank you, Beverly, and thank you all. I love you all. Happy Resurrection Day.
Thank you, Mary. I think I don't see any other hands. Go ahead. I think the last song, it's called Alive by Bakar. And this song for me is just about our natural inclination for love and life. It's called Alive. And when things go awry, there's just no need to go searching anywhere for anything. We can just stop the search and it's just all here, you know. Thanks, Rhoda. Thank you. Everyone here. Beautiful to spend this morning with you. Thank you for being here, sharing your love and your space. I think we have a couple minutes left. Either if anyone still has anything they want to share, or Rhoda, if you want to play another song. But I really enjoyed spending this time with you.
See, we're only about 35 seconds. Oh, Tina's hand's up.
Hey, Beverly. I just wanted to say thank you. And this last week was the first time I've heard it in here a million times that, I'm not my body and I'm not my thoughts and I'm not this and I'm new to this thing. And, but I had a first direct experience this week. And so it was it's been an eye opener. Let's just say that it's brought a little bit of peace and comfort and the realization that this truly isn't who I am, like this, right? But I loved what you talked about, your authentic selves too, and the freedom, and that when they were little, I really loved when you said that. Like, I'm like, yeah, I never thought of it that way. Like when they're little and they're just pure and they're just doing their little thing. It's like, am I one of the first, if I crush that, or if I say anything we say, it's like so pliable, like clay almost, it's amazing. But then I'm like, the true self manifested in a baby is still the true self, right? The journey's still set. So anyway, that's all. Thank you so much. That was one. And I loved that song. I thought it was fantastic.
Thanks, Tina. Nice to meet you. So I will turn it over to Rhoda. Thank you.
You've been watching our online gathering. It happens weekly on Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. To join us live in the sanctuary, visit our website, awakening-together.org. You'll want to click on Online Sanctuary in the main menu, and then in the drop-down menu, look for How to Enter the Sanctuary. Right there at the top of the page is a clickable link. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary and join with you in fellowship. Thank you again for watching. Also, please know that if you'd like to stay connected via the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube, you can subscribe and hit the bell for more notifications. We hope to see you in the sanctuary.